being recorded.
Oh, and here comes Cicely. Great. Okay. Hi, Cicely. How are things?
Hello.
How are things at your end? Busy?
Leave it okay.
Okay, yeah.
I opened the meeting, then it says someone will let you in, and then I was like, I must be in the wrong meeting. So sorry.
Yeah, no, sometimes it takes a little while. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get started. So Chris, why don't we begin with you? Just any new developments or things to share just in general about how the mobile response program is going and those kinds of things?
Yeah, a few new updates. So I can't remember if the last meeting was after our 24/7 transition, but we did complete that and that's been going smooth. Calls have been very light overnight. I don't think there's actually a single one in Evanston that's had a mobile response overnight. But overall it's been light. So just, yeah, we're getting the word out that the transition occurred. That was a little bit by design, that to just make it a little bit of a soft start with nights, but so that's been smooth. They are available in person 24/7 now. Another Evanston specific update I wanted to give. So we worked with communications and they're going to be getting us access to like the Evanston communications and police radio through an app on our work cell phones, so that our staff can call them for support quicker if there's an emergency needing like paramedics or police, but then B, also so we can monitor that and identify calls that seem like could, benefit from us working together, either just us going out or us all out going out together as a co-response. So we're getting that set up, but that's exciting because I know, we're wanting to work towards direct 911 deflection, and this gets one step closer at least. So that's really positive. We've got our dispatcher staff who's shadowing in the communications office later this week. So that'll kind of help things get started on that component as well. There was a CESA advisory meeting yesterday. Weren't any major updates to report from the state on that. I think that's everything on my end.
Yeah, no, that's exciting about the communications with EPD. So how soon before you think the communication setup will be in place?
It sounds like very soon. They submitted for accounts for us because we need accounts. It's just an app that we download to the phone. So they submitted for accounts, and then we were going to have a training for how to appropriately use it and stuff and protocols.
Yeah, great. So you have one dispatch person, or probably more than that because they work round the clock? Your dispatch person.
We dispatch, and then like other people go into that role depending on the time of day outside of her hours.
Yeah, okay. And then with the 988 number, are you getting any calls directed from them to you, and how's that going?
We are, not a ton, but we are getting some directed from them to us. So those have mostly been positive. There seems to be some wires getting crossed still on sort of like what programs cover what areas, as well as like the interplay, like we're getting calls transferred that are just for phone support, not wanting a mobile response, but that's what 988 is supposed to be doing. Like we're supposed to be brought in if there's a mobile response. So, but those things will get worked out. But so they are forwarding some calls. It's been pretty light from 988 though. We're still kind of telling people, if you want to meet with someone, call us directly. If you mostly want to talk to someone, call 988.
Right. Yeah. Oh, great. Committee members, questions or?
I guess my question has to do with, maybe you all covered this, I missed a couple meetings, the video and communication for the community
Right,
engagement piece.
yeah, right, yeah. So Chris, what you want to bring us up to date on where that seems to be, and then thoughts, any, we can talk a little bit about now that you're going to be presenting on the 27th instead of last night.
Yeah, so it was taped and Jesse's finishing off the final touches on it. So we did it like a sort of mock interview with a crisis counselor. So it's someone that people might actually, see out in the community, and just talking through sort of what happens when someone calls, what are the different resources between us, 988, 911, that kind of thing.
Yeah. And I think I mentioned in an email to everybody that Jesse's created a web page on the city website where you can see the flyer. I think we'll be posting the video there, and then there are a list of different organizations that have mental health resources, and so it's a nice complement to the flyer. And then Chris has got a staff person who's working on a Spanish version, which we'll have soon. Yeah. So Patty, are you happy just with the electronic version of the flyer, or do you want us to make copies for you?
I think the electronic version is good. We've been putting like information on our newsletter every month for all of our participants, and we have links, and so I think that'll work for us.
Okay. And Kristen, how you had mentioned wanting some flyers before, but
yeah, I think we're good with the electronic version of it. I made a few copies here to put around the office and different things like that if people here have asked for them. But I don't think that there's we're going to send it more blasting out newsletters and through our email lists our clients and everything. So I think we're good with electronic.
right, yeah. So I asked Luke Stowe what he thought about how to handle the distribution. He suggested that we give the flyer to Patrick Dagnan, who's in charge of our communications, and for example, ask him to make a bunch of copies I'm thinking we should have some at the library and Robert Crown, and I would welcome your thoughts about where we might make sure to get, a set of flyers with that out in the community. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's important. Robert Crown, Gibbs Morrison, Mason Park, even people are going over there for basketball leagues, Fleetwood, like all those community
Yeah, I
centers.
think all the community centers for sure.
Yeah, getting them out to whether it's YYA or whoever, to post them up and have copies of them at all those places, I think is really important.
And then Eleanor, if you can get them to, I guess it's still Sheila Murray at Cradle Career, if you want to get them there and have
To where's this?
Cradle Career. I don't know if Sheila's still in
Right,
charge of
right,
it,
yeah.
but if you want to get it there and have her get it to the network. I
Right,
can also share with Dave Davis to get to the nonprofit network.
Yeah.
To get them to everybody.
okay, that's great.
And I was going to say, when we were doing the survey on the metrics subcommittee, I know it was Audrey at the time, I'm not sure who it would be now. We had them put in the food boxes that people picked up, so that, you know what I mean? That was just one of the things they added to the food box. So
Yeah, that would be Indira or Nicola, since Nicola's on the call. That was Indira and I doing that, but
oh, yeah.
not anymore. But Nicola could definitely get it over to Health and Human Services.
Okay, great.
And I would also give it to Sue Pontarelli at 311 when they go out, and they'll have like booths or tables or something. You can ask them to have paper copies that they'll hand out. We did that for Guaranteed Income. They had some of our communication.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
probably Eleanor, to that point, we talked to Luke about doing some kind of, not staff training, but some kind of staff education around this, so that all the staff, if you think about like our parks and forestry teams who are going out and might see individuals,
right,
getting it over to the chamber, which Audrey can do as part of our committee, but
right. Angela, I think.
and Paul is maybe on the phone to serve that purpose here, but
Mhm, yeah. Yeah, no, that's great. And I, yeah, definitely have our staff get up to speed on this so they can answer questions. That's a good idea. Yeah. Okay. All right, so we've covered trilogy. Allison, do you want to give us your very brief update on the living room?
Yes, my very brief update on the living room is that we don't really have much of an update.
Mhm.
We're very lucky to have, so when the mayor sent out an email blast about the living room months and months ago, a bunch of people responded and said, we love this idea so much, we'd love to offer XYZ. So somebody said, I have access to completely free furniture, like free and new furniture. So when it comes to that, like, you let me know. Somebody else, in this case, was an architect and said, like, I'd love to help you think through this. So we have one volunteer architect, and then Ascension, St. Francis, one of their, I guess, I don't know if he's an architect or what exactly, but we've done a walkthrough with Turning Point, and the architects. And so right now we're just kind of nudging to get the options, the designs, and some potential options. You know, that there's no way that that we've budgeted enough for the work that we have to do. I think there's going to need to be a completely brand new, there's no HVAC system, so we need to put in an HVAC system. It needs to be ADA compliant, which it of course is not. Like, there's no reason it should be. It's a house, but there's going to be a lot of transformations. I think it's concerned about the roof.
Oh dear, okay.
And we're trying to be a little creative about the funding as well. Like, could we put, you know, there are like tweaks around the edges, but could we put solar panels and get some, you know, sustainability dollars, like that kind of thing. But so right now we're just sort of waiting to see the plans. There, you know, when you go into the building itself, it's a 2-bedroom with a bathroom in the middle. I think they're going to get rid of the tub in the bathroom and make the bathroom ADA accessible, because they're not going to need a tub. But there was a thought at one point of maybe moving the bathroom completely to get different rooms. So it's going to be a thing for sure. There's a living room, a dining room, a kitchen, a back sunroom, a really decent size basement, and potential for the attic as well. So just, I think everybody's trying to think of, you know, what needs to be on that ground level, what could be in the basement, what could be in the attic, you know, for ADA reasons, how many sort of consult rooms can we get out of that space? So we're just kind of waiting to see what the options are. I think, you know, like the difference between what 3 consult rooms versus 4 consult rooms would look like.
Mhm.
Allison, did we get the money from the county? I know I'm pretty far out of the loop on this one.
I think we don't know for sure yet.
Hmm.
I mean, I think the answer is gonna be yes.
All right.
But I don't know that we know for sure the answer is yes.
Okay.
Do we need to ask the mayor to?
I think he's very involved in that
Alright,
request.
okay,
Yes, I think
okay.
he's very involved in that request.
Okay. And also in terms of nudging the architects along, or how?
Yes, he also is very involved. I sent out an SOS. I was like, can you send a nasty email? My polite emails are not working.
Right, okay.
And so yesterday we got like oh yes, of course, but
Yeah.
so
Okay. Yeah. okay, well, we won't expect it to open tomorrow then.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, that's a good expectation.
Okay, well, if you can keep on top of it for us, that would be great.
I'm on it.
Okay. So joining us this afternoon is Paul Zalmazak, our Economic Development Manager. And I asked Paul to come because we had this big discussion at council last night where we approved the Street Plus program and talked about I guess an auxiliary program of sort of a social support staffing capability. So anyway, I wanted Paul to come and talk about what that program would look like, both the Street Plus and then also what might happen with this social outreach F part, and then talk about how it's different from Trilogy's program but how it might complement what Trilogy is doing, because I have a feeling when Chris comes to the council meeting on the 27th to give his report, those will be questions that some council members will have, as sort of how is this all going to fit together. So Paul, can I turn it over to you?
Thank you, Councilmember Ravel. And I don't know if I should be referring to my friend Alderman Fleming from back in the day. I think we'll go back to Sicily.
I'm just Cicely, although I will, for the record, note that I voted against this option.
Right. So I'm going to talk
when we
about
talked about it in council, but I'll
just
just
talk
listen as a
about that
citizen.
because, by the way, you voted against
The idea of it. I guess it wasn't up for vote maybe at the time.
Yeah.
But
so-
nonetheless, I'm just here as a citizen now. It's all water
Excellent.
under the bridge.
No, so it's interesting because we discussed that last night, that there were under the previous council, there were some restrictions placed on me as it relates to a downtown cleaning contractor. So one of the services of kind of the off-the-shelf solutions for the downtown or business district cleanup teams is kind of a social service outreach person who is, as explained last night, could be a certified social worker, trained social worker, or it could be somebody who had experienced a period of being unhoused or some other at-risk experience in life, and that they're trained and they join the team and help direct individuals who are also experiencing that on the business district basis. So it wouldn't be a citywide, it would be only in the business district. So if I start over, I came to the city council last night to seek approval of funding for a cleaning initiative. And the city council ultimately approved that contract for cleaning. And the employees of this group called Street Plus will be full-time employees earning a starting hourly rate of $16 an hour, plus health benefits, plus personal time off. So it's not a workforce development initiative. It's not a formerly incarcerated temporary 90-day program where you cycle people through to kind of stabilize the situation. It's literally, it's a straight up full-time job. You work cleaning the downtown and the rest of the business districts in the community. Okay, so that's what the city council approved. During the conversation, because Street Plus had included in its offerings the ability to hire somebody for $75,000 per year to be a social outreach person who would connect on a daily basis with those individuals downtown who may be experiencing homelessness or panhandling or whatever it is. That outreach worker would then, if necessary, reach out to the broader ecosystem that is addressing these kind of concerns. The council wasn't comfortable with funding that option, and it wasn't even on the table until one of the other council members suggested we add it, because the council and the council wants to be able to understand the broader system and how this particular organization would work within that. So it didn't move forward.
Right.
So Cicely, the program is strictly a cleaning program, but what it did is it opened up the conversation and perhaps also exposed that a number of council members are doing their own research right now into programs in other communities where there are ambassadors who are really focused on business district social service needs. So during that conversation, we continue to bring up Trilogy. We brought up the living room concept. I discovered this morning in a meeting with the directors, there's like 5 or 6 different divisions within the city that somehow touch this topic. And there isn't like a go-to person, there isn't a go-to plan. So as you can tell by the way I'm presenting this, it's not even clear to me how this all works. So what I'm trying to do is really trying to help calm the water, so to speak. There's no rush for us to move forward with the group I brought forward. What it did, again, it brought up, it really kind of like brought to light a desire to address it in a deeper, more meaningful way and to steer more resources to it. But it also really exposes that we're not organized around it. And when I say us, I'm talking about the city of Evanston, not people on this call. Can I get some reactions to that or thoughts? Or again, what I would be willing to take forward or further discuss internally, we're going to, is can we create something that is business district focused that supplements the work you're doing to then give you kind of a, I don't know, real-time referrals that address kind of the higher needs that I believe that your group is focused on. I could be completely wrong.
I'm gonna let Chris chime in, but I want to say one thing because I'm gonna switch
Yeah.
devices. I might lose you for a second. So I think the same issue that I brought up when I was a council member is the issue I have now, which is this committee set out to work on this space, really from the defund police and that conversation. It took us a while to get to the point of having an RFP, and then Chris and his team were also putting in RFP through the state, which was great for us to save a couple dollars. But we've tried to update, I think, Eleanor people as much as we can. I mean, there's a lot of work that is not necessarily worth an update because it's us kind of, we spent so much time with other communities to figure out what they were doing. And I mean, we did a lot of research as a committee. We were like 12 people, now we're down to just a handful. So we had to kind of map it out to be thorough and actually to educate ourselves. And so anyway, all that to say, we are where we are now. My concern with the model that was going to be brought forward, this extended kind of model you just talked about, was it is going, in my opinion, going to cause confusion, right? So we're talking about Chris and his team, which is Trilogy, obviously, who have a relationship already in Evanston, who already have the infrastructure. If now we have another team that's going out that's only downtown or business district specific, and they are providing whatever kind of referrals, I think we're just going to cause more confusion, as opposed to those people, whoever they are, who understand about Chris and his team and understand 988 or 911 or 311 and can pick up the phone and call and place the call for service with the contracted agency the state has already provided us. Because Chris, again, is already working with a lot of our entities outside of the 988 service, right? So I think if we have this other group that's doing something else, we're potentially, my concern is we're losing the folks who we're trying to help because now they're confused on who to call. And if they've called and gotten Chris one time, and then this next time they get this cleaning service, social work person. I mean, I'm just saying that because I can't remember the name of the agency. I think we're gonna cause them confusion, would be my concern. And then we're back to kind of where we started off, as opposed to just saying we have police, we have fire, and we have Trilogy. And that's kind of our service provision. And then obviously Trilogy, police, and fire can connect with all of our nonprofits. So I think the cleaning service, great, that sounds good. If we can kind of educate them on the service Chris is providing, then they can even make calls if they come across someone who they think need help, just like they would call the police or fire. I think it's the best way to do it. Maybe Eleanor and I maybe more Eleanor needs to have more conversations with city council. I feel like I've tried to explain this to blue in the face, but I don't know why my former peers don't kind of get that we have a service.
Yeah, I think the context last night, and by the way, this conversation is going to be ongoing because even what you just said, I don't think there are members of the council, from my perspective, believe that it's going to be enough, right? So like what the promise of this other group is, we have somebody downtown, officing downtown that's there every single day. And maybe the answer is, as I get to know Chris, and by the way, I'm going to say this again, this is not my expertise, and I'm not even going to pretend that I know how this works. I'm just giving you feedback, at the request of Councilmember Ravel about the conversation we had last night. But, there's an opportunity, I think, if it's Chris or whoever it is, where we could probably, if we could get a full-time person for some period of time, officing in downtown Evanston and having a presence in the way that is not necessarily the 988 situation. It's something else, right? I don't know exactly what that means, Cicely. But
could that
it's-
be something that we ask Connections to provide? Because I'm assuming, just
I don't
let's
know.
name the elephant in the room.
They're not doing
If I realize that, but
Yeah.
it's the same problem we had on Main Street with the other building, whatever it was
Albany
called. I
Care.
can't remember, right?
Yeah.
We can't necessarily send city resources into Chris's job. This is state resources only to one area of the city, right? That's an equitable distribution of resources. So for Albany Care, we push them to say, if you're going to have this facility here, you need to provide some support for your residents as they're in the community. I'm not saying that it has been the perfect, but I think if Connections or whoever else is kind of the reason why we're having so many calls for service or whatever we're having downtown, if we can ask them very seriously as a partner to provide some outreach or support or whatever it is on the street, right? Because Chris and his team, they have a small team, they have a large service area. And Chris, you speak for yourself, but I'm guessing they don't have enough manpower to just have a presence in downtown because they also service Skokie and everywhere else.
Correct. And I think it's also like looking at what callers are looking for out of those interactions, because like Connections has outreach workers, we do outreach, but like the unmet need is not us going up to someone and offering referrals to a shelter. The unmet need is other things that people are looking for, which I like, that's fine. And I can't comment on that. I can only comment to like how it does or doesn't overlap with our program, which I don't feel that this does. Like, I don't feel like this confuses things. I mean, from the standpoint of people knowing who to call, I think that's a good point. But I don't think this is like duplication of services, because we are a mental health crisis response program that happens to like work a lot with people who are unhoused by nature of the mental health system, and that we touch every area of health and social services. But we're not a homeless outreach program per se, and we're definitely not, like we get calls all the time from, I don't mean this like this business like specifically, but just as an example, like CVS, there's someone sleeping in the doorway and customers can't get in. Like, that's not a mental health crisis, but that business owner needs someone to ask that person, to go
Right.
sleep in a different doorway. So
Right,
from that
Connections-
sense,
Yeah, Chris, exactly. And Connections will say, well, yeah, we'll send somebody over there to see if they're one of our people, if there's a way we can help. But then if they can't, they don't, or they just don't do it because they've got limited staff too. So you've highlighted an important point, Chris, and that's what some of the council members mentioned last night, is that you have a wide area and a small staff and a very focused kind of an emergent or urgent response network. And that's not what this group wants to do or is skilled to do. They're doing something else. They might be able to say, this seems serious, let's get them to 988 or Trilogy. But what I would say, if I could, just because I have to get on to another meeting, and I can't think of a more important meeting than this, but I'm double booked. Honestly, is that the conversation is going to continue to happen because of what I heard last night. There is great interest, and I would also argue that there's great confusion. And if we could just collaborate around making sure we're clear on what everybody's tasks are, or responsibilities are. A, we're not going to duplicate them. B, we're going to make sure that we're filling in as many gaps as possible. And if that means not spending $75,000 on Street Plus, but instead paying 30,000 to Connections to have some kind of dedicated staff person, or 30,000 for something else to do something else, fine. I mean, this was an idea that really was highly focused on social service needs in our, frankly, it was just going to be downtown, maybe periodically on Main Street. But I think Councilmember Rovell will back me up on this, and that's why she invited me today. I was very sensitive to this issue that I did not recommend it last night because I was advised not to do so in the last city council. And it was the council that was, some members of the council that was pushing it, and some members that are already doing their own research, thinking that they can do something that better that's not happening now. So there's something something's been exposed here, and we just have to collaborate on it. I wouldn't say change anything you're doing. I would say that there's probably some things that we need to add to make sure we're not duplicating.
Well,
Can somebody please ask me to stop talking, please?
No, I mean, what I guess, and I think I speak for most of the members of the city council, we're just getting a lot of emails from residents saying, I am no longer going to downtown because of the panhandling situation. So it's not at all the kind of situation where, Chris's team is needed. It's a whole, and I'm not sure that Connections staff knows how to deal with the panhandling situation either. So it's, but I think it's the frustration about the panhandling that's really pushing us to try to do something. And so then, but it is, in my mind, it's very different from what, Trilogy's program is.
I think if they frame themselves as outreach workers that are offering resources, though, I guess my thought is is that going to achieve what those people are looking for who are reaching out? Because an outreach worker is going to offer referrals to, it's like you can't get someone into Connections because the wait list is so long. People who are staying outside are choosing not to stay at a 311 shelter because of the quality. So it's what is this person going to offer people? Because the gap is a gap that doesn't exist, not just an access to resources thing, I feel like. So I not that I'm saying, I can't comment on whether this program is a right thing or not, because panhandling is not what I do, but I guess just from a service availability standpoint and sort of looking at what are people actually looking for who are asking for something, I don't think this is going to meet that, because my understanding is what they're looking for isn't legal, but
Yeah.
Right, you're making a very good point there, right?
Yeah.
So Eleanor, is there something that, I know we're gonna go on the 26th, but is there something more that we can communicate to the council to explain what this is and what it's not? Because to Chris's point, he's not here to handle panhandlers. Well, I would say that Connections, and I haven't paid that much attention recently, but we give them quite a bit of money. I would, giving them more money to do something, to Chris's point, that they already have staff for, seems maybe not the right thing to do. There are some cities that have done stuff around panhandling that involve that $30,000, right? There are ways that we can maybe think about being creative to address the panhandling, that actually just addresses panhandling.
Right.
Right, and we don't, and I'll just go on the record, not that there's a record here, but we also know where a lot of people are starting from when they think about you know, why are they afraid? Why are they complaining? We don't, I just want to put that out there too. I understand that it's not necessarily coming from a pure place, but it is a complaint, and it's something that I think elected officials are having to deal with on a really high, like a frequent level now. Like, it's happening a lot. And that piece that was written in Evanston now, the opinion piece, that was kind of harsh, you know, but that I think she gave a voice to people that have been afraid to say that. And I don't agree with it, but I think she represents a large group of people, unfortunately. So how do we address it?
That's
we
why you gotta
can't-
just not read Evanston now.
Right. No, so.
That's what I do.
Actually,
exactly,
it
but
was
I can't
letter
write
to
the-
the editor of the roundtable, wasn't it? Or was it Evanston now? I can't remember.
No, it was Evanston now, but I hear you, Cicely, but again.
Mhm.
and
No, I
I'm
get
gonna-
what you're saying. I mean, it is a problem. I don't think it's a problem necessarily for this committee, and I don't know, you
Correct.
know,
Right.
but I do think we could probably, you know, maybe with the flyer and the video that Chris and his team are doing,
Right.
we can make sure council at least knows what is happening here. I think the other issue in terms of council not knowing what each other are doing is a larger issue that we also can't solve, but
Mhm.
definitely we know, or I know that is an issue where people have their own projects and they're gonna take something on and, you know, there's no communication. And so,
Mhm.
as you said, it just makes us look disorganized as a city and probably putting resources all over instead of having one kind of plan for the resources.
Oh, are you at the Thompson Center?
I'm at Ogilvy train station.
Oh. So
So-
I'll say one last thing. I think there's also a potential, some negative, and again, it's a perception issue, but I think there's some potential negative impacts to what you're working on, because people are going to say, well, they're doing that. They're supposed to be working on that. They're failing at that, or whatever it is. And they don't quite understand yet what it is that your scope of services really is. So that's a classic kind of government communication problem. We're not always the best at communicating things, but again, this is an opportunity to make sure that the world knows what your scope is and what you're really going to be successful at accomplishing here, because I think you will be successful.
And Paul, you mentioned a conversation this morning with other people at the Civic Center,
Yep.
and each one realizing that they had a piece of this problem. So which departments are you referring to? Should we have a little, I don't know, a task force,
Yeah, that's kind
a
of,
staff task force to wrestle with this a little bit?
I think that's, well, Allison, do you agree that's kind of what naturally is going to happen here?
I think we already have something on the books. Yeah, I think we all sort of were like, oh, you had that conversation. Oh, you're having that conversation. And I think my personal, Paul and I are probably two people who get the most of it, because people talk to me about, you know, I've been sort of involved in Margarita Inn, and
Mhm.
Paul's obviously involved in a lot of downtown stuff. I think I know for a lot of council members, it is a primary concern right now. And to kind of echo what Paul was saying, like, this is going to continue to come up. And so I think we have an opportunity, this group, you have an opportunity to help figure out what the right direction is a little bit, or at least say, like, look, here's our lane, or here's who's doing what. But I think it's a prevalent enough issue for enough council members that saying like we kind of have it covered that's not gonna.
Right, yeah.
Right,
And
so,
my naive understanding of part of the problem is generous Northwestern students who, you know, make it possible for panhandlers to, you know,
Exist, yeah.
so is Northwestern part of, we need to maybe make sure that they're part of this conversation as well, and do some student education about this.
I think you're right.
Because some of the people are truly homeless, but some are coming up from Chicago because it's lucrative up here. So,
Well,
Right, and that-
we've got Health and Human Services and me and Paul and
Audrey, because
Audrey.
Yep, she said-
So we're just gonna try and get everybody on the same page, sharing all of the pertinent information.
Okay.
And then we're gonna sort of try and take it from there.
Council member, there's even like Mike Rivera raised his hand and said, hey,
Yeah,
I've
that's
been
right.
assigned to work on public washrooms. So I think I should be part of that. And the question is, why is Mike working on public washrooms, and who's going to plan the location, and what do they look like? And are we actually creating a bigger problem by putting up a bunch of porta potties versus maybe investing in in nicer Portland new style, fewer nicer ones instead of nobody in this community is going to want to see a bunch of plastic porta potties.
All right, I am going. Sorry, to jump
Yeah.
back in. Well, I almost vomited when I heard you talk about the porta potty conversation, because that was going on 15 years ago about the porta potties.
Mhm.
We just go
Nothing's
full
new. I mean,
circle.
none of
We
these
just go
ideas
full
are new.
circle here.
We're-
So anyway,
yeah,
I have to jump off this call, but Eleanor, if you just, I'll see you on the 26th, if not before.
It's the 27th, don't forget. It's
27th,
the Tuesday, yeah,
27th.
right.
If not before, but just chime me if you need me.
So what are you suggesting, Cicely?
I was saying, if you need me for something before that,
Oh.
just let me know what it is.
Sure, okay, yeah. I might need you to talk to Council Member Kelly. I'll email you about that.
I can do that. Okay,
Okay.
alrighty. Okay,
Yeah.
bye.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Cicely.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye. So we will, I hope that by providing a bunch more information on the 27th, having Chris there to really talk about the trilogy program, which is, very, the mission and the people that they're serving, it's a very contained program. So we'll try to, and then we have to figure out how to deal with the rest, but let's not get everything all confused. Okay, well, I have a feeling we're going to want to follow up phone call, meeting soon after the city council discussion. Let me, which would be like, oh my gosh, where are we? Well, the immediate week later is October 4th, or we could skip a week and go to the October 11th. I don't know if people have a. Why don't we see how it goes on the 27th? If you hold those next couple of Tuesday afternoons, and we'll regroup to sort of see where we are and provide any further. It'd be great if both if Allison and Paul can join us, because this is a really big problem. This problem is bigger than this committee. So because we have a pretty narrow focus, actually. So
Agreed, and I think part of that presentation, when you discuss at the next council meeting, is this is what we do, this is what we don't do. But like, if there was a checklist, like a simple graphic that's like,
yeah,
988, severe mental illness, emergencies,
right, yeah,
we cover a region of this.
mhm,
What we don't do is panhandling, homelessness,
right,
downtown focused areas, right? Like there's a
Yeah.
checklist, and
right,
it'll expose where the gaps are on the market and
yeah,
or the service market, and then we go from
Right.
there.
yeah, great. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, for being here for this freewheeling conversation. And I'll try to remind everybody about the 27th and roughly where